Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Tourism and Hospitality Service Management, SOTHSM. Certificate in Tourism Studies, CTS. TS1 Foundation Course in Tourism. Block-1 Tourism Phenomenon. Unit-2 Understanding Tourism 2.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you will be able to outline the reasons for the growth of tourism. Define the different motivations that determine the increasing diversity of tourism. Understand the origin and development of mass tourism and package holidays. Analyze the factors that influence the demand for tourism, as well as the decision-making process for individuals. Determine the relationship between motivation, destination and tourist products. 2.1 Introduction. In Unit L we discussed about the different types and forms of tourism. Tourism of today is no longer what it was 50 years back, and it will change further in the years to come. A crucial role is played by motivation in this process of change. In fact, motivation or the purposes of a tourist considerably affect the various components of the tourism industry. Motivations not only determine tourists' behavior, but are being critically analyzed to determine the future needs of tourism. Hence it is necessary for tourism professionals or learners of tourism studies to know why people travel. Tied with this is the question why people opt for a particular destination or why a specific destination attracts tourists. This unit takes into account the various motivations along with the changing trends in tourism. 2.2 The changing trend. Tourism had transformed considerably from its earlier motivations, i.e. mainly business and religion, by the 19th century. In Europe and America it is now a part of the life style of not only the aristocracy but also the merchants and the professional class. It has come within the reach of the industrial workforce as well. Between the two world wars, in the industrialized countries, the mass of the people had higher expectations and greater entitlements. This was because of increasing incomes and holiday entitlements. Technology brought the means of transport, particularly the automobile, within their reach, and material conditions of life were much better than the days of depression with the post-war economic boom. In the 1960s, the post-war economic boom began to spread much more widely and international tourism began to reach mass markets around the globe. Such changes were BMMD to have an impact not only on the nature of tourism but also on the numbers participating in touristic activity. Mass tourism, a phenomenon which we can see emerging in India today, was primarily a domestic business up to the 1950s in most of the countries. International tourism formed about 5% of tourist activity in the 1930s and 40s. By the 1970s, foreign holidays accounted for 20% of long vacations by Americans, Britons and Europeans. The focus of mass tourism were the seaside resorts and spas tilde Europe and the national parks and natural beauty around summer camps in America. Traveling by rail or by car, the middle-class tourist used boarding houses or hospitality of friends and relatives or holiday camps to make the budget for the holiday extend. Private operators provided cheap accommodation, mass catering with a range of amusement and entertainment possibilities at the site. Britain, France and Germany were the leaders in this movement. This early idea of packaging soon spread to the upmarket hotels that began to include swimming, tennis and dancing in their facilities. Tents, caravans and chalets came up for those who wanted a less regimented and more flexible holiday plan. The Club Mediterranee, a total resort concept that emerged from the need of a group of young French families looking for a complete holiday, soon spread to all regions of the world. A total resort required tremendous commercial ability, which the travel trade had acquired by the mid-20th century. As suppliers of the tourist product, they expanded their output and sharpened their marketing skills. From the increasingly sophisticated market research emerged the revealing concept of motivation and its diversity or changeability amongst different groups of tourists. Expertise in dealing with motivation led to the development of different types of tourism which involved large numbers of tourists. A key role in this movement was played by the jet aircraft. By the 1970s, wide-bodied jets with a capacity of 400 passengers reduced the cost of air travel and the mass tourist emerged at resorts all over the world. Countries around the world began to notice the impact of tourism on the national and global economy. Destinations began to make themselves up in the image of a particular market segment. Those destinations that catered to the largest numbers soon became stereotyped as tourist ghettos because they looked alike and offered facilities that were standardized. Today, as new destinations are emerging, the international stereotype is giving way to ethnic types, which has an underlying uniformity with a viewer of local culture and identity. 2.3 Purpose of tourism. You may ask the questions: what motivates a tourist? Why tourism? Or what is the purpose of tourism? These are pertinent questions, and the answers are particularly relevant for those who are or intending to be tourism professionals. 2.3.1 Sun, sea, sand and sex. This is known in American parlance as the 4S formula. Sea bathing with access to a beach, sandy, and good weather, sunshine, is an expectation of tourists who want to escape from temperate to tropical climates. New fashion concepts also dictate the craze for a suntanned skin over the pale complexion. The current health fadism also dictates the use for activity over indolence. Overcrowding, which appeals to those who like to do things with a crowd, has pushed those who like privacy further away to destinations. In Africa and Asia, for example, you may hear such comments at a beach: "Oh, how peaceful it is, lovely. I hope it does not become crowded like the one back home." Many analysts have described this form, 4S, as tourism in a ghetto. They do so to emphasize the artificiality of a created reservation which is made to measure in the touristic image or touristic gaze. Included in this category are hotel complexes, holiday tours and hill resorts. Natural and scenic beauty is merely a backdrop to playing the same games, reading the same newspaper, watching the same TV shows and eating the same food. Local serving personnel are perhaps the only unique ingredient of such tailor-made resorts and are considered sufficient to represent the country in which a particular resort is located. The model of such a type is the Club Med, which is often described as the most honest touristic formula, although sneered at by the cultured critic because it incorporates many actual motives and states quite openly that it aims at complete relaxation. It is the idea of paradise, a Garden of Eden, in which people are free and unconstrained and everybody can be happy in their own way. This is real life, and such life is available in the most exclusive regions of the world, in enclaves where the tourist can abandon himself to pursue leisure undisturbed. In this holiday theater based on glamour, glitter, fun, entertainment, sport and buffets, a holiday becomes a reprieve from daily life, which is unreal. The show opens up to lightening views of culture for sightseeing and performances by local women and men. At times these remain meaningless rituals to the tourists. Yet, they expose the performers to a state of corruption that is often justified by the money it earns them. For example, Liz and Stuart join thousands of Western tourists who visit the East every year. They are both 18 and have saved up the whole year for their 2-week vacation. Equals 7. They are determined to enjoy themselves and to relax. They plan to see ancient monuments or visit bazaars to shop and spend lavishly on exotic bargains. They have already spent a good amount on fashionable holiday wardrobes, cameras, personal stereos and designer sunglasses. They are both sociable and chatty and would like to meet young men and women wherever they go. They are excited at the thought that they will be away from family and other social controls. They also want to return with an excellent suntan, and lying on a beach or poolside will expose as much bare skin as possible. However, something like this is possible. The people at the destinations they visit might be poor, living much harder lives and working longer hours, perhaps in tourism-related services to earn a living. Many may be conservative and religious. They may frown at certain activities that Liz and Stuart consider normal holiday behavior. And their dress codes will be different. Many among them may object the freedom of the men and women to socialize together. Yet, they may tolerate it or turn away their eyes because for the local people, hospitality, which was once a source of honor, has now become a means of earning a living. They now view the tourist as wealthy and extravagant. In recent times, the 4S's formula has been expanded to include golf, a sport which is extremely popular in the more affluent countries of the world, and particularly in Japan. The Japanese have set targets for outbound tourists, and in 1993, 15 million Japanese took off for golfing holidays all over the world. Hawaii and Australia are the most revered destinations, mixing beach and golf facilities. The game is very expensive in Japan, and there is the space limitation too. Because of this demand, all Asian countries are now multiplying golf courses at every suitable location. Malaysia is setting a target of 122 courses by 1994. Many tourism experts condone golf tourism as being environmentally friendly. However, in Japan itself there have been several studies indicating that golfing greens pollute the underground water facilities. The coloring and chemicals used to maintain the green areas are as harmful as industrial effluents. Studies in Thailand also indicate that culturally women caddies double as prostitutes to earn an extra income, since most of them are from agricultural communities that are very poor. 2.3.2 Leisure, touring, sightseeing, culture. Such tourists like to wander, not content to remain in one place or complex, but preferring to stay in a different place every night or so. This is a kind of cramming or crash course of notable countries, monuments, people, places and culture. The motivation is both self-education and self-esteem. The camera is an essential ingredient of such tourists whose touristic lens view is considered to be more authentic than reality. Often the framing of the destination via the tourist gaze is the visible pressure that motivates such tourists towards touristic itineraries. The destinations visited by such tourists are more varied and widespread than the 4Ss. The linear or modal itineraries also require a much better transport network and capacity. And hotels have to provide their best services, particularly check-in, check-out and room services for frequent guest room changes. Although the interest segments may vary, the demand for services is invariably the same. A tendency develops to create circuits on milk run routes on the basis of infrastructural strength as well as local support to the daily turnover of tourists. Such tourists therefore also fall into the mass package category. 2.3.3 Visiting friends and relations, VFR. This form is a strong motivation for domestic tourism in India. You see this in everyday life. For example, Venugopal wants to visit his friend at Delhi. He also decides to see all the tourist attractions in Delhi. He may also utilize a day to go to Agra to meet his classmate Nadeem and also see Taj. This segment is of great importance to the transport sector, but it is not considered economically significant by the providers of accommodation, food and beverage services. This is so because they stay and eat with their host, i.e. a friend or relative. At times, when people have none of their own, they try to FMD one through someone. These tourists do not exercise freedom to choose their destinations, but do show an interest in the tourist attractions that the town or city offers. For example, a visit to a friend in Bombay also offers beaches, amusement parks, pavement cafes, shopping and the Elephanta caves. Gujarat Tourism has made an interesting routes tourism itinerary for NRI Gujaratis on visits to the family or friends. They have linked major cities of the state with the places of interest both in the state as well as in neighboring states. The VFR tourist makes use of the surface infrastructure for tourism in much the same way as the business traveler and often participates in linear or modal itineraries along with domestic and international tourists. Tourists often use friends and relations as hosts to visit areas of interest. In India, we see an interesting combination of VFR and Lieutenant Colonel to subsidize the cost of transport and accommodation so that there will be enough money to spend on sightseeing, leisure, recreation and shopping. 2.3.4 Business and incentive travel. Business travelers' needs often overlap with those of the holidaymaker. The only difference is that business trips are not directed towards touristic centers or resorts. Rather, their demand is directed to centers of trade and commerce or diplomacy. They may demand special services like communication and secretarial facilities, meeting and convention facilities, car rental and accommodation, with less emphasis on recreational facilities, although swimming pools and health clubs are popular. Services today. A special area of interest to tourist destinations is conferences, fairs and exhibitions. Today there are many organizations that feel that their executives are more creative and productive in a resort atmosphere. Hence, the number of corporate conferences is on the increase. Public and private sector, associations and professional bodies, FHRAI, TAI, and Unit-2 etc., trade unions and political parties are also customers for convention-cum-tourism complexes. The needs for communication and specialization have led to annual meetings of associations and professional bodies not only to meet and discuss new ideas and strategies but also to exhibit new products, new trends or product lines. Fairs and exhibitions are a reflection of the health of an economy and give an opportunity to the participants to sample some of the local tourism offers. An area of emerging importance to the tourism industry is incentive travel or travel of a touristic nature as a reward for some special achievement or contribution of an employee to the FMN. Most employees consider paid holiday as a desirable perk because their standard of living ensures that there is no consumer durable that they don't have or can't have. International travel is, however, something not more than 10% to 15% can afford. Secondly, the firm's incentive is always of a higher quality and standard than what an employee can afford on his own budget terms of services, distance and the length of stay at a resort. Most tour operators find the incentive tour market attractive because it includes upmarket rates with people who may not have the discriminating tastes of the upper crust. Such services often overlap with the mass tourists who are directed towards resorts or on the sightseeing circuits. The Indian Association of Tour Operators, LATO, considers the incentive tour market an important segment for a long-haul destination like India. 2.4 Special interest. In contemporary culture there is a dissolving of the boundaries between high and low cultures as well as between different cultural forms such as tourism, art, education, photography, TV, music, sport, shopping and architecture etc. All these forms lend themselves to the area of special interest in tourism which deviates from mass tourism, because it does not consider people within a particular destination to be similar to each other, with shared tastes and characteristics. Special interests in the end are to be determined by the providers of services. However, the increasing and changing power of different social classes also determines the importance of these areas of cultural production for special interest tourism. As the collective power of the working class declined and the service and middle classes increased after the post-World War period, new forms of tourism were generated in the West. The new cultural economy that these classes created related to people's consciousness, disposition, tastes and dislikes. Special interest tourism rejects natural enjoyment as coarse, vulgar and servile and replaces it with refined, disinterested and gratuitous pleasures that emphasize culture and art as the essence of the difference between the new power elite and the old rich and the working class. Studies have shown that such tourists enjoy good work and market conditions as well as educational credentials. They are primarily in the 30 to 40 age group. They share many of the preferences of intellectuals, like an interest in the most legitimate aspects of culture. Their interests include museums and folk art, sport, mountain climbing or walking tours. Many writers describe their taste for ostentatious poverty, which is seen in their habit of dressing casually, liking bare and homely interiors and a cultivated relationship with nature. Special interest tourists need not be in the middle salaried category alone. In media, advertising and design areas, they have a very strong commitment of fashion, change, and style. Their morality seeks pleasure as an ethic, and as a taste for novelty. They look down on the candy floss image of the traditional holiday camp and resort because for them it is in the bad taste. They go towards health food, vegetarianism, heritage and natural pastures like walking, cycling, swimming and fishing. In Britain we have seen a campaign for real holidays as against the rise of the package tour. The special interest Tourist equates mass tourism with mass production in things like beer, bread and ice cream, instead of real things, and wants a return to the authentic taste and flavor of the individual way of doing things. The essence of the real holiday campaign is that A. It involves a visit to a destination well away from the masses like Maldives, Bolivia, or Lakshadweep. Thus, it opens up the whole world to the possibility of tourism, and B. The real tourist will make use of the specialist agent or operator rather than a few major companies who do not promote a discriminating independent form of travel. The small niche product will promote not touristic trips but voyages of discovery. Special interest tourists have a reading list of useful books on different countries. They look for travel rather than tourism. They stress on individual choice, avoiding the package maker. They need to be educated. They go to the countryside and invoke a deferential past which has been constructed with elements which never perhaps existed together historically. They function according to what could be termed as a tourism bill of rights, which respects nature, the rights of the host populations and their customs and culture. For such tourists, stately homes, areas or regions are rehabilitated as tourist attractions. Factories have been turned into museums, garden festivals and theme parks are created. In castles, industrial sites and ecological spheres, craft demonstrations turn theme heritage sites into experiences where people can watch, learn and participate. JNA Renaissance activity. In such cases they know that tourism has benefited or saved what might have otherwise been completely lost. Such tourists also participate in cleaning the environment by holidays spent in clearing waste and debris on beaches and mountain slopes, and protecting wildlife. Niche tour operators can also bring pressure, like their clients, on local governments to insist on conservation. This is done to ensure that mass tourism does not destroy the beauty of the destination, its natural attributes and customs. They promote traditional handmade crafts as souvenirs, accommodation in the vernacular architecture and textiles, as well as local food and beverages. However, sometimes special interest tours and tourists can also stereotype what is classified as authentic or real or typical about a destination. For example, Americans visiting Europe often feel like international refugees in a slow queue towards an unseen goal. Push, push, push. These monuments are all the same. I haven't met a single local person. How can I when we are on this schedule? You'd think we'd have a night off, but no, we have to go to a performance. Such are the phrases commonly heard. Often, in season, crowds are so large that tourists don't get a good view of the spectacle and they really get to see the spectacle in their photographs. 2.5 Alternative tourism. Alternative tourists like to do things differently. They want to be less with other tourists and more with the living cultures. They aim to avoid using special tourist accommodation, transport and other services. They prefer to use or share the services of the local population. In this way they hope to experience some aspect of their lives. Many tourists choose alternatives because they are concerned about the negative impact which mass tourism can have on a destination. Tour operators can specialize in such forms by focusing on people and their culture rather than providing created comforts. Such trips can be of an extended duration and can cost less than the traditional 2-week vacation, but they can also be high-priced. Travel is with local friends, and the purpose is to come to one's own understanding of political, social and religious traditions. Destinations are out-of-the-way villages and tribal hamlets, or palaces of ex-Maharajas. Hotels and homes are characterized by friendly atmosphere and cleanliness. Transport is crammed with locals going to market with their wares on camels or donkeys, boats in backwaters or treks in the mountains. India is a popular alternative destination. It is a subtle mix of ancient and modern, ritual and urban, FTL led with local color and vitality. 2.6 Other determinants. Besides the motives mentioned in the earlier sections, there are also certain other determinants of tourism. 2.6.1 Psychological. Is tourism desirable? Is it a good thing to have for the tourist and the destination? Is it a justificable means to an end? As a break from work or as a medical need? Tourism provides relaxation in an environment that is completely different to the home surrounding. In that sense, it is a psychological break. Colleagues, neighbors, and friends. How tilde influence our choices and pressure to conform is indeed great. It is also fashionable to take a holiday at a certain time of the year or to a certain destination. Fashion in tourism is close to fashion in clothes. There can also be security in habitually taking the same holiday to a favorite hill or beach resort. In fact, tourism buying can be as customary as any other brand loyalty. 2.6.2 Sociopolitical. Many societies encourage tourism as a form of rejuvenation. Many states give a tourism entitlement to their employees. In some countries, trade unions include visits to spas for overworked or sick workers through a medical insurance scheme. Paid holidays also encourage participation in tourism. The political system also encourages certain preferences for holiday destinations as well as activities. This is done by choosing tourist destinations for holding conventions or conferences. For example, Nandi Hills near Bangalore was the venue for SAARC heads meeting. 2.6.3 Economic. An important factor is disposable income or freedom from any money constraint. Tourism is psychologically and socially desirable as a consumer objective, and the possession of the requisite means to satisfy the desire for tourism must be there. In the West, when a person's income rises by 1 unit, they spend 1 units on tourism. This indicates a high propensity to travel. Where incomes are not high and money is concentrated in a few hands, the propensity to travel is likely to be far less. Business and incentive travel is also likely to be constrained by the money constraint, which can be affected by economic depressions or recession. Governments can encourage outbound tourism by their tax policies and the permission to take foreign exchange out of the country. The price of tourism in relation to other consumer expenditures is also an important consideration. Special offers can, along with discounts, often make tourism a more attractive option than staying at home. 2.6.4 Time. Vacations are traditionally linked to tourism activity. Many institutions have increased breaks in the calendar rather than just single holidays so that people can avail the opportunity of free time to participate in leisure activity. These well-regulated breaks in Europe in spring, summer and winter have encouraged people to take not 1 but perhaps 2 holidays in a year. In India also this is on the increase. For example, people with school-going children tour mainly during summer or winter vacations in the schools. The tour taken during the summer vacations may be longer when compared to one during winter. Price and time have a great impact on tourism demand. The tourism industry adjusts its tariffs with the season's demand to encourage tourism as well as to increase profits. There are other pressures, business, family, religious, educational and social that motivate tourists. Similarly, conferences and seminars, weddings, funerals or family reunions, or visits to centers of pilgrimage are factors that are supplementary or secondary feeders of tourism. In India, pilgrimage centers are a major attraction for domestic tourists. You must have seen caravans of buses taking them to either Hazur Sahib, Ajmer Sharif or Vaishno Devi. In many cases, facilities like accommodation, catering or special events and discounts, etc., also act as pull factors to encourage tourism or attract tourists. 2.7 Summary. People travel and tour because of different motivations. People may travel to escape from their daily environment or to seek information. It is possible that one may travel to satisfy many motives at a time rather than any single motive. A change in motivation or, say, different motivations have brought in new trends in tourism like special interest or alternative tourism. Knowing the motive of tourist helps the tour operator, tourism professional to offer better services to the client, and it is always better to ask for motivation and accordingly suggest the destination. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.